This is Homer J. Simpson. You know him, he's TV's most lovable lazy bone dad.
The 3 little sentences that will get you through life. Number 1, it was like that when I got here. Number 2, cover for me. Number 3, oh, good idea, boss.
But how did Homer get this way? Well, today we're finding out how he went from this to this. And every story's got to start with a childhood, which takes us to season 7's Mother Simpson, where we get a closer look into Homer's troubled youth. Yeah, that checks out. See, it all begins on a beautiful Saturday, and by beautiful, I mean every single worker at the power plant is pissed because they've been dragged into Mr. Burns' latest scam, voluntary highway cleanup.
Local hero shuns spotlight and pitches in.
I can't believe I'm spending my Saturday picking up garbage.
Naturally, Homer wants no part of this nonsense, so he does the only logical thing, fakes his own death. And not in some half-assed call-in sick kind of way, because what's the point of faking your death if you don't go out in style?
He'll be sucked into the turbine.
Smithers, who was that corpse?
You know, it was a rough death when even Mr. Burns gets a little bummed out. Thanks to Homer's mannequin stunt, he gets to spend his Saturday lazying around.
That dummy worked like a charm, Dad.
Come on, boy. We've earned this Saturday.
Only problem is, his plan works a little too well. By the next morning, the entire town thinks he's actually dead.
We can't tell you how sorry we are.
You have our deepest condolences.
And this is where things get, well, very Springfield, because instead of mourning Homer, people react with their usual brand of psychotic glee.
A tombstone? It came with the burial plot. The important thing is, Homer's dead. We've been saving for this since your wedding day.
Trust me, that's not even the craziest reaction. After the power company cuts off their electricity because, you know, the bill payer is legally deceased, Marge officially hits her fed-up wife quota.
Homer, when I asked you if that dummy was to fake your own death, you told me no.
So Homer finally drags his lazy ass down to Springfield Hall of Records to undo his little stunt.
You guys think I'm dead, but I'm not. No, I want you to straighten this out without a lot of your bureaucratic red tape and mumbo-jumbo.
Only he notices something a little weird. According to the records, Mona Simpson is still alive, which shouldn't be possible considering his mother's supposed to be dead.
This thing says my mother's still alive. She died when I was a kid.
So he goes to the cemetery to confirm it himself, and instead he finds two things. His own grave being prepared, and a long-lost mom standing right there.
Hey, wait a minute. Mom?
Homer?
Nothing like beating the deadbeat allegations at your son's burial. So Homer and his mom are finally reunited after 27 years.
Oh, my poor baby.
Naturally, Homer brings her home to meet the family. Marge is shocked to learn she has a mother-in-law. Lisa begins geeking out. And then there's Bart, who's wondering where the hell his Christmas presents have been.
I don't know what to say. I finally have a mother-in-law.
This is so weird. It's like something out of Dickens.
Hey, since you were a no-show, you owe me years of back presents.
But the happy reunion is cut short when Mona freaks out over a passing police car.
Gotta run. Grandma stuff.
Lisa notices something shady, and since Bart has already ransacked her purse, because of course he has, they realize Mona has a whole collection of fake IDs.
When I was going through her purse, look what I found.
Mona Simpson, Martha Stewart, Muddy May Suggins, Mona Stevens, Penelope Olson.
At first they just think Mona's a con artist, so the family corners her for answers. One police threat later, and she finally spills the real truth. And let me tell you, this backstory is a doozy.
His wild, untamed facial hair revealed a new world of rebellion.
So it's a very long story. We're just going to cut to the chase here. Basically, Mona was just a regular housewife.
Oh, my little homie bear. Time for bed.
That is, until she saw Joe Namath's hair on TV. One strange political awakening later, strange correlation I know, and she immediately joined a group of radical hippies.
How could I not become a radical?
And if you already guessed at Mr. Burns being their target, then boy, do I have a video for you. Anyway, they end up attacking Mr. Burns' secret germ warfare lab because of course he owns one. They bust in, destroy the germs, and trample Burns like a crowd at a Black Friday sale.
My germs. They never harmed a soul. They never even had a chance. Whoever did this will never get past me.
Unfortunately, Mona makes one crucial mistake. She stops to help Burns up.
You poor man. Let me help you up.
And since nothing good ever comes from helping that man, it marks the beginning of her life on the run.
You just made a very big mistake. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison.
My asthma's gone.
Yeah, so remember I said that they attacked a germ lab? So they used antibiotics to do so, figures, which ended up curing Wiggum's asthma. Realizing she's put her family in danger, Mona kisses baby Homer goodbye and vanishes into the underground. And that, my friends, is her deadbeat origin story. Meanwhile, back in the present, Burns gets word that Mona is back, and because decades-long grudges are his specialty, he and the FBI begin a manhunt.
Put out an APB on a Eustace R. Dewo. Better start with Greektown.
You're reading it upside down. That's Homer J. Simpson, Chief.
Cancel that APB. But bring back some of them gyros.
Chief, you're talking into your wallet.
Never change, Wiggum. Never change. It all comes to a head when the FBI tracks them down, forcing Homer and Mona to make a last-second escape.
We made it, Homer!
It's all thanks to our anonymous tipster.
And in a shocking turn of events, Chief Wiggum actually does something useful, repaying Mona by letting her go free.
Well, it's because of your old lady that I got rid of the asthma that was keeping me out of the academy.
Dang.
Only she now has to go back on the run again. She says her final goodbyes to Homer before vanishing out of sight in a hippie van.
Well, there's my ride. The underground awaits.
And that, folks, is how you introduce an emotional storyline in a show where a man once tried to eat a deep-fried jacket. Now, we still don't have a full picture of Homer's childhood just yet. Sure, we know how he grew up without a mother, and it messed him up real good, but in season 19's Mona Leaves we finally see just how deep those scars go.
I've realized that the most important thing in my life is you.
After decades of neglect, sure, now's the time to remember. Anyway, we start off at the mall with the classic Homer versus Bart bit, and you already know who's winning this round.
Homer has booger breath.
It's a medical condition.
Homer is a lard butt.
What did you say?
Dung muncher. Stink brain. Cheese wang. Captain Crud. Homer is a big jerk.
Who told you these things about me?
Okay, look, I'm no doctor, but if your breath smells like boogers, chances are it's a self-inflicted condition. Anyway, the family heads home after a long day of shopping, only to find the front door wide open. And since Springfield's police is headed by Chief Wiggum, the only logical next step for Homer is to grab a concrete block and craft a medieval weapon. What?
I hear noises coming from the kitchen.
Well, that's where the food sleeps.
You know what they say, it's never too dangerous to have your priorities straight. Armed with his trusty weapon, well, it's trusty as Homer's craftsmanship comes, Homer rushes in to confront the burglar, only to find his drifter of a mother just casually baking a pie.
Hello, Homer.
Mom!
My aquarium.
You're alive, and you baked a pie.
And just like that, all is forgiven. Well, not quite, because you see, even for a moron like Homer, there's still only so much gullibility he can display. So when Mona pulls her classic, "I want to finally settle down" speech, Homer actually calls her out for once.
You left a hole in my heart that could never be filled, so I filled it with food, but I'm never full.
Again, lived experience, folks. It doesn't get any wiser than that. Mona, of course, isn't one to give up easily. Mr. Burns would know that. So she stays around and tries to win over Homer again. But despite how many childhood stories she tells her grandkids, Homer ain't budging.
I only hope you can forgive me.
I can't forgive you, and I don't accept your tuck-in.
However, after spending a whole day ignoring her, Homer succumbs to the one thing that's sure to get any man standing on business: guilt. And boy, does it hit him hard.
Oh, I feel terrible. My own mother reached out to me and I rejected her. I'm gonna make her a card.
Hopefully it doesn't involve any crayons. If you know, you know. So he manages to craft the card in one piece, but when he heads downstairs to give it to her, well, let's just say he didn't get the reaction he was hoping for.
Mom? Are you asleep? Asleep with your eyes open? Mom? Mom?
Yeah, it turns out that last episode's plot twist had an expiration date. So Mona's officially gone, and all that's left is her last will and testament, which is exactly as random as you'd expect. Bart gets a pocket knife, pretty much a gamble there.
Cool.
Marge gets a hemp purse, sure, she needs to loosen up a bit.
It smells like concerts.
And Lisa gets Mona's rebellious spirit, which is code for "I ran out of gifts, so I decided to wing it."
Grandma, I accept your gift.
As for Homer, well, he's her favorite son. He gets one final mission from her: to scatter her ashes on top of a mountain at exactly 3 p.m.
Got one last chance to make up for the things I said to my mom. I will avenge you.
It's not really avenging her, Dad, just the fulfillment of her last wish.
Surprisingly, he manages to finish the mission. At exactly 3 p.m., he spreads Mona's ashes up top that mountain.
3 o'clock. Goodbye, Mom. You're finally free.
But since Mona never does anything normally, her ashes set off a hidden military base. Because yes, even in death, Mona is still actively ruining Mr. Burns' plans. And considering he was about to dump nuclear waste in the Amazon, you know what? I gotta agree with her on this one.
You monster! On another subject, next Thursday I have to leave work early. I assume that's cool.
Ironically, this might be the most normal interaction they've both had. Anyway, long story short, Homer saves the day. He stops the last of Mr. Burns' plans before parachuting away with the Union Jack flag. I mean, if you're gonna borrow from a certain movie, you might as well take the lot. As Homer floats away, he watches Mona's ashes scatter into the sky, and for once, he doesn't ruin the moment. So far, we've been able to piece together Homer's childhood, or trauma in this case, but there's one last incident that truly completes the picture.
Well, I don't feel so good.
That's right, in season 12's Homer, we see the exact moment Homer becomes himself. The episode starts at the animation festival where the Simpsons do what all families do: watch deeply disturbing cartoons together.
I'm sick of your lack of faith.
What gravy?
It's at the festival that Homer stumbles into Animotion, which is basically a motion capture suit that lets cartoon characters mimic human movements. Naturally, he tries it out, because if there's one thing Homer loves more than beer and food, it's embarrassing himself in public accidentally. At least his kids are laughing. It's gonna count for something. It's at this exact moment that Homer has this revolutionary new idea, and by that, I mean the mother of all dumb financial decisions, by investing all his savings in Animotion.
I'd like to buy 500 shares of Animotion Incorporated.
And in record time, the company enters super duper bankruptcy, because as it turns out, dumping your life savings into a niche animation gimmick isn't exactly sound financial planning.
The stock market, Animotion is up an 8.
Yes!
After plunging 75 points this morning. The firm declared super duper bankruptcy, which is terrible news for the company's only stockholder, Homer Simpson.
Oh!
So now Homer's broke again for the 70th time in this entire series. Desperate for cash, he goes to where every broke man goes for financial advice, Moe's Tavern. And that's when Barney, whose liver has given up on him entirely, suggests the perfect job: human guinea pig.
You know, Homer, I got a great way to make money. I'm a human guinea pig.
And since beggars can't be choosers, Homer signs up for medical testing. Now, the tests themselves are pretty safe, as safe as it gets in Springfield.
It burns! It burns! Ah!
However, it doesn't take long for researchers to realize that Homer's IQ is somewhere between houseplant and goldfish.
Damn it!
Man, is he dumb.
So they run a few more tests, and that's when they find what is easily the most Homer Simpson self-sabotage you can possibly think of.
Mr. Simpson, I'm afraid you have a crayon lodged in your brain.
There's a crayon in my brain?
That, my friends, is what it means to have crayons for brains. Homer, unfazed by this discovery, casually explains that when he was 6, he shoved an entire 16-pack of crayons up his nose, sneezed them out, and assumed that that was all of them.
16! Woohoo! Oh, I don't feel so good. I think that's all of them.
And with that, the mystery of Homer's stupidity is solved. The doctors tell him that if they remove the crayon, one of two things will happen. A, he will become a genius. Or B, he will die instantly. And because nothing ever phases this man, he takes the gamble.
Let's do it.
One successful surgery later, and Homer's IQ jumps from 55 to 105, which is still not great, but considering the average IQ of Springfield, it's like Einstein just appeared in town.
Question! A moron says what?
Not being a moron, I wouldn't know. However,
What?
ladies and gentlemen, I give you your moron.
Absolute destruction. With his newfound brain power, Homer actually starts bonding with Lisa. Between hitting the library and finally doing his job at the plant for once, it looks like the new and improved Homer is here to stay.
Dad, did you read all these books today?
Everything from Hop on Pop to Death Be Not Proud, I've compiled a thorough safety report on this plant.
Except for one tiny little issue. You see, Springfield isn't exactly a town that rewards intelligence. Heck, just ask Frank Grimes. So when Homer writes a full safety report on the plant, it results in, you guessed it, everyone getting fired.
It seems the federales have been tipped off by an anonymous whistleblower. Now, while the plant is brought up to code, there will be massive layoffs. That is to say, total layoffs. Toodles.
And just like that, he becomes public enemy number 1.
Wait, you can't hate me. I'm your better.
Pretty much what Caesar said. From there, he heads over to Moe's Tavern to catch a drink, and yeah, the reception isn't exactly friendly. Between the effigy of him burning in the room and catching a 2x4 on his noggin, Homer quickly begins to realize that life as a smart guy is pretty much hell.
Hey, that's me. So you all hate me?
That's right, Brainiac.
And so he decides to weigh his options. He's either A, going to stay smart and die hated, which at this rate is just a matter of time, or B, go back to being an idiot, loved, and get free beer again.
Change me back to the blissful boob I was.
So of course Homer chooses beer. He rushes back to the researchers, begging to be dumb again, but apparently between the last time they used him as guinea pig and now, they've suddenly developed ethics.
I'm sorry, we don't play God.
That's ridiculous. You do nothing but play God.
So they send him to the last unethical doctor in town.
Mo Sislak.
That's right, I'm a surgeon.
Kinda checks out. Lisa, of course, is devastated, but just when it looks like things will end on a sad note, something falls out of Homer's pocket. A letter. Turns out before his DIY lobotomy.
I want you to stick this crayon into my brain.
The old Crayola oblongata.
He wrote a heartfelt note to Lisa.
Lisa, I'm taking the coward's way out. I just want you to know, being smart made me appreciate how amazing you really are.
That is certainly one way to break the deadbeat cycle. So after years of growing up motherless, clueless, and with a crayon stuck up in his brain, Homer finally reaches high school, which naturally is plagued with bad grades and decisions. But then in season 2's The Way We Was, we learn that Homer's high school days had at least one silver, or more accurately, blue-haired lining.
Excuse me.
Who's that? I don't know.
Ah, love at first sight. The episode starts in the present with the Simpsons enjoying a peaceful family evening in front of the TV.
Do you two have to sit so close to the TV or it'll hurt your eyes?
Oh, it will not.
Oh, yes, it will.
This lasts approximately 5 minutes before the TV dies, forcing them into the absolute horror of talking to each other. To pass the time, Marge decides to tell the kids how she and Homer first met.
How your father and I first met and fell in love.
And yeah, it wasn't exactly a fairy tale romance, to say the least. We flash back to 1974, a time when disco was still alive and haircuts actively fought against the laws of physics. And Homer, school was less about education and more about being a public nuisance for him.
Hey, Homer, you're late for English. Who needs that? I'm never going to England. Come on, let's go smoke.
Case in point. While Homer and Barney are busy assassinating their remaining brain cells in the bathroom, Marge gets detention by burning a bra at a feminist rally, which ironically is probably the most badass thing that she's ever done in the show.
The first step to liberation is to free ourselves.
Anyway, thanks to Marge's brief career as an activist, she lands herself in detention. Waiting for her there, of course, is Dumb and Dumber. I'll let you decide who's who. And when she walks into the room, Homer is instantly starstruck.
Hey, would you like to go? She's mine.
Yeah, that's the face of a guy who's ready to go to war. Homer instantly decides Marge is the one. Only problem is Marge is way out of his league, apparently. But Homer, as we all know, has never been one to back down from a challenge or to use basic logic. So in his infinite wisdom, he decides to join the debate team just to get closer to Marge.
My name's Homer Simpson. I'd like to sign up for something.
Well, we have an opening on the debate team.
Like arguing?
Yes.
I'll take that, you stinkpot.
Yeah, debate team and Homer Simpson. What could possibly go wrong?
Homer, would you like to present your rebuttal?
With pleasure.
Turns out everything. With that plan going down in flames, Homer shifts to an even dumber strategy, pretending to take French class so Marge will tutor him.
You tutor?
Yes,
And anyone can be tutored?
just those who need help with French.
What a coincidence.
Somehow, this one actually works, and she ends up at his house tutoring him. One surprisingly productive session later, and boom, Marge is laughing and agreeing to go to prom with him.
Marge, would you go to the prom with me?
You're like no one I've ever met before. You're dear and honest and open.
So will you go out with me? Please say we.
We?
Whoa, what, Marge?
And then Homer opens his big mouth.
If honest and open is what you like, I'm not really in any French class. This was just a brilliant scheme to get to know you better.
Oui, oui, folks. Stupidity is truly international. Just offend the entirety of the French population real quick. Considering she has a debate final the next day and Homer just wasted her time for nothing, she's rightfully pissed. She cancels their prom date, storms out, crushing Homer's dreams faster than a canceled Netflix show.
Homer J. Simpson, I hate you.
But does Homer take the hint? No! No, absolutely not, because there's one thing Homer excels at. It's delusional optimism. Marge, meanwhile, accepts a prom invite from Artie.
Would you go to the prom with me?
Whoa.
Well, I can think of a dozen highly cogent arguments. Now, the first is from Time magazine.
The best argument is that I've known and respected you for 8 years, and I would be delighted to go to the prom with you.
Prom night rolls around. Homer shows up at Marge's place, tuxedo, limo, ready, only to be brought to speed in the most embarrassing way possible.
Homer!
Marge leaves with Artie. Patty and Selma roast Homer like it's Comedy Central, and Homer is left to sulk in his rented limo.
Hey, buddy, where's your date?
She's with him.
Ouch.
But hey, Homer's already rented the tux and limo, so he figures he might as well go to prom anyway. Which turns out to be a terrible idea, because now he has a front row seat to Marge and Artie getting crowned prom queen and king.
The king and queen of Springfield High School's class of 1974 are Artie Seth and Marge Bouvier.
After watching the woman of his dreams dance happily without him, his night quickly goes from down bad to crying in a high school hallway levels of terrible.
You're near.
Gotta get out of here.
And to quote the man himself, that was the worst day of his life so far. Because in that infinite wisdom we talked about earlier, Homer decides to go to the makeout spot to, I don't know, punish himself further? Like, I don't He spots Artie's car, his spirit fully shatters, and to top it all off, he runs out of money to pay his limo driver, forcing him to make the long, humiliating walk home. And then they just casually drive by. Honestly, if he had working brains, this would definitely have been his villain story. But just as you're starting to feel bad for the guy, the universe pulls a sneaky one. Marge's night with Artie also goes down in flames. Turns out old Glasses Boy got a little too handsy, earning himself a slap and a spot on the FBI's watch list.
Come on, kiss me.
No, really, I mean it. Now stop it.
Marge gets home seething just in time to hear her parents absolutely trashing Homer.
You know, when that Simpson boy showed up, it took years off my life.
Will you stop it? She went out with a good one.
And in a rare rebellious move, she says, screw it, hops in her car, and goes to find him. She sees him trudging along like the loneliest penguin in Antarctica and picks him up, finally admitting what we all knew all along.
When I got home, I realized who I should have gone to the prom with.
Oh.
Hi, prom day.
A little late, but hey. A win's a win. And that, kids, is how Marge and Homer first got together. Homer wraps it up by telling the kids he's never letting Marge go, and considering the man we're dealing with here, that should absolutely be taken as a threat.
I'll never be able to let you go. And I never have.
Now, we all know that Homer and Marge get hitched, hence the name of the show. And in Season 3's I Married Marge, we get a sneak peek into how it all went down.
I think we found the reason why you've been throwing up in the morning. Congratulations.
Poor guy.
That came from the depths of his very soul. The episode starts with Marge thinking she's pregnant again, and since Homer has barely figured out how to raise the first three, he immediately hits panic mode.
Barnacle Bill's home pregnancy test.
The home pregnancy test is about as useful as Abe Simpson's life advice, so Marge heads off to see Dr. Hibbert. Meanwhile, Homer, ever the responsible father, decides this is the perfect time to traumatize his kids with a story from the past.
It all happened at the beginning of that turbulent decade known as the 80s.
Flashback to 1980, Homer and Marge are young, dumb, hopelessly in love, and because common sense is for losers, they decide the perfect place to get frisky is inside a mini golf castle.
What if we get caught?
This castle is impregnable.
Considering what comes next, that line aged really poorly. Because next thing you know, Marge is pregnant, and Homer, being the stand-up guy he is, does the only logical thing, proposes immediately.
Son, you gotta marry that girl. Because it's the honorable thing to do. Because you'll never do any better. So, will you marry me?
Yes!
Because nothing says we got this like a shotgun wedding and youthful unemployment. But probably the best case scenario. They tied the knot in some seedy chapel just across state lines, and if you think Vegas weddings are depressing, trust me, you haven't seen Springfield's budget version.
And I pronounce you man and wife. Here's $10 worth of chips. You may kiss the bride. Next!
There's on a budget, all right? And then there's whatever that was. Now, a married man and a soon-to-be father, Homer tries stepping up. By stepping up, I mean failing spectacularly at every single job he attempts.
Next, there's a problem with the reactor. What do you do?
There's a problem with the reactor? We're all gonna die! Ah!
After blowing through every single possible gig, including almost getting scammed by a pyramid scheme, he hits absolute rock bottom when the repo men show up like stormtroopers.
Crib, mobile, monitor, and the lady's ring, I'm afraid.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, that's what rock bottom feels like, all right. Now feeling more useless than a YouTube premium subscription, Homer does what any responsible man would do. He bails. He leaves Marge with a dramatic farewell letter, pulling the classic "you deserve better" stunt before disappearing into the night with his trusty briefcase.
I will send you every cent I earn for the baby, but you will not see me again until I am a man.
Which is full of donuts, probably. And just when you think the universe is done kicking Homer while he's down, boom, Patty and Selma show up to his new job at the Gulp and Blow.
This taco is full of hair. There's your explanation.
At first, they decide to not tell Marge, but Selma, of all people, actually grows a conscience and lets Marge in on Homer's whereabouts. Marge then heads on over to Homer's workplace and, with all the grace of an 8-month pregnant woman, convinces him to come back home.
Any ring is fine as long as it's from you.
Marge, poor Voo.
Oh, brother. Filled with newfound motivation and desperation, Homer storms back to the nuclear power plant and gets hired after all. How? Because this is America, and apparently you can still fail upward if you're persistent enough.
You the boss?
Yes?
I'll call security, sir.
Well, listen to me. If you're looking for the kind of employee who takes abuse and never sticks up for himself, you can treat me like dirt and I'll still kiss your butt and call it ice cream. I'm your man. And if you don't like it, I can change.
Hold the phone, Smithers.
Sir, this man not only failed the aptitude test, he got trapped in a closet on his way out.
I like your attitude. Feisty yet spineless. I haven't been this impressed since I first laid eyes on a young bootlick named Wayland Smithers. Welcome aboard, son.
I got the job! Woohoo!
But just as he's about to celebrate his big win, Marge goes into labor. Homer rushes to the hospital, takes another verbal beating from Patty and Selma, and then in a moment of pure cathartic rage, he finally snaps.
Marge, where's the baby?
Right where you left it. Listen, fat boy.
No, you listen. This is my wife and this is my kid, so if you want to stay, you better give me some respect.
That must have felt very good. Anyway, Bart is born, and being the devil child he is, wastes no time setting up his eternal rivalry with Homer.
Bart, Daddy's little angel. Why, you little? He did that on purpose.
How could he? He's only 10 minutes old.
Back in the present, Homer wraps up his bedtime story with a rare moment of sincerity, telling the kids how happy he is to have them.
Not a day goes by that we don't thank God for all three of you.
And then Marge walks in and drops a bombshell. She's not pregnant.
I'm not pregnant.
Yeah! Whoa! Excellent, Marge!
Yes!
Homer lets out a big sigh of relief, and the high five he shares with Marge says everything you need to know. Still on the topic of Homer's kids, we move on to season 4's Lisa's First Word to see how Lisa entered Homer's timeline.
Well, Bart, what do you think of little Lisa?
I hate you.
And the battle lines are drawn. It all kicks off with the Simpsons desperately trying to get Nagy to say her first word. And failing miserably. So Marge does the next best thing and starts reminiscing about Lisa's first word instead. Flashback to 1983 when Homer, Marge, and baby Bart were living the dream, if your idea of a dream is a cramped apartment, an angry landlord, and Homer singing Cindy LaPeur at full volume.
When the working day is done, girls just wanna have fun.
Yeah, it's official. Homer's a better singer than I am. Now, despite having the IQ of a potato, Homer's actually doing well raising Bart. So when Marge announces she's pregnant with Lisa, Homer takes it in stride.
Guess what, homie? There's going to be twice as much love in this house as there is now.
We're gonna start doing it in the morning?
No.
However, there's still the issue of their tiny apartment, which clearly can't handle another screaming Simpson, so Homer and Marge begin the soul-crushing search for a new house, and boy, do they find some gems.
This one just came on the market.
You don't say. After speedrunning the These Houses Belong in a Horror Movie tour, they finally stumble upon their dream house, Evergreen Terrace.
Just imagine what we can do with this place.
Wow.
Only one small issue. It's about as affordable as a yacht made of solid gold. Homer goes to Grandpa Simpson for some help, and to my absolute surprise, Abe sells his own house and writes Homer a $10,000 check.
I'd be honored if you came to live with us. Thank you.
And guess how Homer repays him?
So how long before you ship Grandpa off to the old folks' home?
About 3 weeks.
My daily reminder to skip kids altogether. Anyway, fast forward to 1984. Lisa's born. Homer and Marge are over the moon. Lisa instantly becomes the Boulevard's favorite grandchild/niece.
I know a new song.
You still here?
And Bart, poor Bart, finds himself shoved aside like an outdated toy. And since we're talking about Bart, he takes this about as well as you'd expect.
Heidi-ho, Simpson. Your son shoved this through our doggy door.
In Bart's defense, it is Ned Flanders' dog. Like, how dangerous could it be? Fed up, Bart decides he's gonna run away, but right when he's about to pack his bags and live his toddler hobo dreams, Lisa finally speaks her first word.
I liked it when it was me, Mom, and Homer. You wrecked everything. I'm leaving. Bart!
And just like that, Bart's tiny, cynical heart melts faster than Homer's resolve around donuts. Fast forward back to the present, and surprise, surprise, Bart and Lisa are back at each other's throats again. Homer takes Maggie upstairs and drops what is probably my favorite Homer quote.
You know, Maggie, the sooner kids talk, the sooner they talk back.
Then, with Homer out of the room, Maggie finally drops her first word.
Daddy.
Alright, you already know what's coming, or better yet, who. Because in Season 6's And Maggie Makes 3, we get the exact moment Maggie enters the frame.
Marge is pregnant?
And we're back into panic mode. Once again, we kick things off with the Simpsons all gathered in the living room for a family bonding night.
Okay, TV off. It's family time.
Oh, but Marge!
You know, that magical time when parents turn off the TV so everyone can pretend to like each other. But since sitting in silence is basically torture these days, the Simpsons do what every family does instead, awkwardly flip through old photo albums.
Yeah, too. Let's get to the baby pictures.
That's when Bart and Lisa notice something suspicious. No baby pictures of Maggie. Naturally, this means either a cover-up or a government conspiracy, but instead of calling Mulder and Scully, Homer just launches into a flashback.
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's actually a very interesting story.
And so, we're sent back 2 years in time, to the one place where dreams go to die, the Springfield power plant. Only for once, Homer's dreams are actually coming true.
With a single glorious check, I'm finally completely out of debt.
So after grinding away at the power plant long enough to pay off all his debts, Homer quits his job in spectacular fashion. He literally burns a bridge on his way out, but not before putting Mr. Burns through hell, at least Homer's version of it.
And that's for employing me for 8 years.
That must have felt so good. With corporate slavery in his rearview mirror, Homer pivots straight into his dream job, working at a bowling alley.
The final phase of my plan.
And for a while, life is perfect. Homer's actually enjoying work, he has time for Marge, and let's just say they were quite busy during those time periods. And since Homer is as potent as a medieval warlord, you already know what happens next.
Congratulations, Mrs. Simpson. You're pregnant.
Homer Simpson, Springfield's answer to Genghis Khan. With more kids comes more debt, meaning Homer's retirement plan is about to crash and burn. So rather than break the news immediately, Marge tries to delay the inevitable. Unfortunately, she's related to Patty and Selma, whose entire life mission is to personally ruin Homer's existence. And since chaos is their chosen art form, they quickly go to work crafting their magnum opus.
Now promise you won't tell Homer. We promise we won't tell Homer.
Translation, there's a phone book and landline waiting for us upstairs. So they ring up pretty much the entire town.
Hello, is this A. Aronson? Just thought you'd like to know, Mr. Zakowski.
And by the time Homer gets home, he walks into a baby shower, aka the end of his dreams. With a return to the power plant now looming over him, Homer quickly slumps into depression. But since his wife is Marge, a ray of hope is on the horizon. She advises him to ask for a raise at his bowling job rather than quit it altogether.
I've never been good enough at any job to deserve one before, but I'm damn good at this one.
Which would be a great idea, except for the fact that the bowling alley is broke. So Homer decides to take matters into his own hands. And let's just say his marketing idea is a little over the top.
Bowling here. Who's ready? Bowling.
Trust me, that's not even the best part.
Make Dad tell the story right.
That's what really happened.
Oh.
Peak Homer. Having shot down his bowling dreams, Homer has no choice but to return to his old job. He crawls back to the power plant, and waiting for him there is a very gleeful Mr. Burns. And if you know anything about the man, you know there's only one thing that can crack a smile on his crinkled old face.
You're here forever. Don't forget, you're here forever.
If soul crushing was a sport, Mr. Burns would have a stadium named after him. Fast forward to Maggie's birth and Homer's still sulking. But the second Maggie is born and grabs his thumb, the big oaf melts instantly. I mean, who wouldn't? Look at that adorable little yellow potato.
Hello. Oh, it's a boy. And what a boy!
That's the umbilical cord. It's a girl.
I mean, it's the thought that counts. As for Maggie's absent baby pictures, turns out Homer took every single picture to the power plant, arranging them carefully around Burns' soul-crushing pluck. A fitting end to a heartwarming story. However, there have been times when Homer got to live his dream, and in Season 5's Deep Space Homer, our plus-sized doofus bags what is easily his biggest work achievement.
I'm going into space right now!
Yeah, good luck to his crewmates. It all kicks off at the Springfield nuclear plant, where it's time for the highly coveted Worker of the Week award. And by highly coveted, I mean Homer's literally the only guy who cares, mainly because he's the only one who hasn't won one.
So, a round of applause for this inanimate carbon rod.
Considering the rod doesn't use a water bucket to resolve an error code, I can see why it edged Homer. Devastated by this snub, Homer does what any reasonable man would do: drown his sorrows in bad cable television.
TV respects me. It laughs with me, not at me.
You stupid.
But then he lands on NASA's latest space launch, and somehow this, of all things, ticks him off. So he calls up NASA directly to complain about how boring the launch usually is.
Hello, is this NASA? Yes. I'm sick of your boring space launches.
And because even NASA is desperate for ratings, they take Homer's suggestions seriously. So they roll up to Moe's Tavern, spot Homer, and somehow decide he's the perfect average Joe to send into space. Which honestly says more about NASA's hiring standards than it does about Homer.
Check with the FBI. I have a file. I have a file!
Better take both of them.
But before he can punch his ticket to orbit, Homer has to compete against Barney Gumble. Yes, that Barney Gumble. Only he's not exactly the same guy we all know.
Hi, Homer. Since they made me stop drinking, I've regained my balance and diction.
It's official. Homer Simpson is now the dumbest man in Springfield. Turns out Barney was Springfield's answer to Hancock all along. An inverted Hancock, that is. He crushes every test, dominates every exercise, and looks like Neil Armstrong reborn. Right until he celebrates with champagne, reverting immediately back to his usual drunken self.
It begins! Give me that!
Craziest part about that, it was non-alcoholic. With Barney out of the picture, NASA is left with Plan B, Homer Simpson. You know, the guy who once ate an entire bucket of expired shrimp and kept going. God bless America. Launch day arrives and Homer, along with astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Race Banyan, straps in for a blast-off. Everything's going smoothly, NASA's ratings are through the roof, and for once, Homer ain't screwing things up. For about 5 minutes. That's when he decides it's snack time.
Hey guys, look what I smuggled aboard.
Huh? They'll clog the instruments!
I mean, it's Homer Simpson. The only people safe around the man are the writers. I'm not even still too sure about that. From here, we get what I like to call the Homering. First, Homer tries to clean his mess by eating through the chips. Only problem is, floating in zero gravity is not his forte. He ends up crashing headfirst into an ant colony, which he also smuggled on board, by the way, releasing the little critters all over the shuttle. And just when you think things couldn't get any worse than ants shorting out their navigation system, Homer ends up breaking the hatch lock.
That hatch open will burn up on re-entry. If I go, I'm taking you to hell with me.
Which is exactly what Frank Grimes thought. And look how that turned out. Luckily, Race got the memo. He eases up on Homer, and since accidental solutions is Homer's superpower, he manages to fix the hatch in the most Homer way possible.
Stupid bar!
Yeah, this is going exactly where you think it is. They make it back to Earth in one piece, just in time for Homer to watch yet another carbon rod steal his thunder. The rod is hailed as a national hero. Homer sulks in front of the TV, and Bart finally writes something nice about his dad. So I guess a win's a win. So we've been able to cover Homer's past and present, and in Season 6's Lisa's Wedding, we get our first sneak peek into what his future looks like.
I'll plan everything. We can have the reception at Moe's. Why not have the whole wedding there?
Yeah, this should be fun. The episode kicks off at the Springfield Renaissance Fair, where a certain MC is working overtime trying to cause a medieval famine.
Oh, I've eaten 8 different meats. I'm a true Renaissance man.
Ashamed by her dad's meat-fueled frenzy, Lisa wanders off and meets a fortune teller who promises to reveal her true love. Skeptical at first, Lisa decides to humor the lady.
I've been waiting for you, Lisa.
How did you know my name?
So we flash forward to the distant future of 2010. Lisa's in college, being her usual intellectual self, when she meets Hugh Parkfield, a British guy with enough charm to cover up the fact that he's basically a living sweater vest. One thing leads to another, things go really fast, and before you know it, Lisa's engaged.
Go to Plan B.
Hey, it's cheap and effective, can't knock it. Back at Springfield, things have definitely changed. Bart's now a 25-year-old demolition worker. Dream big, buddy.
They're finally paying me for this.
Marge is still a housewife, and Homer's still working at the power plant, only now Milhouse is his boss, because apparently the apocalypse happened off screen. Once Hugh and Lisa arrive home, it is awkward from the start.
Enjoy.
Still warm.
That's the spirit, lad. Trust me, it'll take you places. Determined to bond with his soon-to-be son-in-law, Homer drags Hugh to Moe's Tavern, because nothing screams welcome to the family like a dive bar that smells like old beer and Barney Gumble.
Oh, an English boy, eh? You know, we saved your ass in World War II.
Yeah, well, we saved your ass in World War III.
That's true.
After a bit of who saved who war debates, Homer pulls Hugh over for a heart-to-heart. Turns out the old man has only one wish at this point, for Hugh to carry on a Simpson family tradition by marrying Lisa while wearing a family heirloom. Hugh, of course, is more than happy to, till he sees the heirloom in question.
Well, I'd be honored to wear those things. Oh.
I'm honestly surprised there aren't bite marks. Anyway, fast forward to the wedding day, Homer pulls Lisa aside for a final pep talk, and that's when she notices Homer wearing the pig cufflinks. Turns out, Sweater Boy took one look at them and said, absolutely not. Annoyed, Lisa confronts Hugh about it, at which point Hugh finally comes clean to Lisa and confesses that he simply can't deal with her embarrassing family, especially Homer.
Surely you don't want me to wear those.
But you promised my dad you would.
I was just humoring him, darling.
I know they look a little silly, but his feelings will be hurt if you don't wear them.
I must say you were right. This has been quite trying. You know, I've attempted to enjoy your family, and frankly, I'll be quite relieved when we get back to England and we won't have to deal with them.
He suggests cutting ties completely after the wedding, except maybe Marge, because no British snob can resist a fancy French surname. This, of course, offends Lisa, who dumps Hugh right then and there. The wedding's off. Reverend Lovejoy blames the cancellation on the lack of a church setting, and if you think the guests are heading home empty-handed, you definitely don't know Springfield.
Who wants cake?
In their defense, someone's gotta eat it. Back in the present, Lisa's baffled by her future heartbreak, but also a little relieved to hear she doesn't end up married to Mr. Sweatervest.
Lisa, where were you? You missed the most incredible thing. I ate 7 pounds of fudge.
Wow!
She leaves the fortune teller's tent, finding Homer, who excitedly recounts the day at the Renaissance Fair, which involves, as you'd expect, more meat. Never change, Homer, never change. Now, when it comes to The Simpsons in the future, there are about a dozen different timelines to choose from, with my favorite being from Season 23's Holidays of Future Past. Guess his strangling days are long behind him. Now, there's a lot, and I do mean a lot, going on in this episode, so here's the quick rundown for you. Future Bart is pretty much a divorced deadbeat dad living in Springfield Elementary, and as if that isn't sad enough, his landlord is none other than Principal Skinner.
You're 2 weeks late on the rent, Bart.
Not to mention that geography report from 30 years ago.
I'm starting to think that report was more important than Bart realized. Anyway, since it's Christmas, Bart's kids Jif and Skippy get dropped off for the holidays, and since a rundown school motel doesn't exactly scream festive spirit, Bart takes them to his parents' house instead.
Mom, don't make us go to Dad's. It smells like dog, but there's no dog.
Over at Lisa's place, things aren't much better. She's married to Milhouse, and if you think that's bad, their teenage daughter Zia is every bit the angsty, condescending teen you'd expect.
Hi, Zia. How did you do on your math test?
Gee, I'm fine, Mom. Thanks for asking. I'm going online.
And then there's Maggie, who's now a rock star.
Everything looks great, Maggie, but until this baby comes, I don't want you to make a sound.
And also pregnant. Again, this episode's like an LSD trip. Just take it as it comes. In the Simpson household, Bart tries bonding with his kids, but all he accomplishes is showcasing how much of a deadbeat dad he is.
Hey guys, wanna watch Krusty? Who's Krusty? Only the funniest man in the world.
I've never let go of my fax machine. I like the sound of a fax coming through, especially if it's a nice deli menu. I miss eating.
And honestly, if Homer J. Simpson is out parenting you, you might want to look within, or to a higher power.
Where's Dad?
He took the boys out.
How can he be such a cool grandfather when he's such a lousy father?
Yeah, buddy, they call that growth. Maybe look it up sometime. Meanwhile, across town, Maggie arrives in Springfield, only to immediately go into labor.
We're almost at Evergreen Terrace, miss. Hey, didn't I go to jail with your brother? Contractions?
Kearney, who is apparently a cab driver now, rushes her to the hospital while Marge scrambles to get there. While that's going down, Lisa's still trying to figure out the best way to contact Zia, so she does the one thing all out-of-touch parents do in such a situation.
I open this door, and I go from being one kind of mother to another.
I mean, tracking your daughter down in the digital world to spy on her privacy is quite the choice, but hey, I'm no expert. So Lisa enters her daughter's digital room. And to her relief, things are pretty normal in there. Well, as normal as it gets for a cyberpunk emo kid. Lisa sees her poster in Zia's room, finally banishing all doubt that her daughter actually likes her.
My daughter looks up to me.
Well, of course I do.
Could somebody FedEx me a prayer mat? And quick!
Expert advice, don't try to understand Milhouse, it's a lost cause. Over in Deadbeat Dadland, Bart finally realizes he should probably try bonding with his kids before they completely forget his name. He tracks Homer down to Springfield Cemetery, which in the future doubles as a cryogenic facility, and guess who's chilling there?
Dad, these are your great-grandsons. I don't see what's great about them. You're still a big disappointment.
Never change, Abe, never change. So why did Homer bring Bart's kids here? Simple, to teach them that dads suck. But eventually, you'll learn to love them, either through guilt or dementia. Heartwarming, isn't it? Anyway, Bart makes amends, Homer reconciles with Grandpa Abe, and we get this surprisingly tender moment.
Oh, I love you, Dad.
There's cotton onions, man. Elsewhere, Maggie gives birth to a baby girl, right next to Mr. Burns' Institute for Soul Extraction. Again, this episode is clearly written under the influence of something. Finally, we wrap up the episode with Christmas Eve at the Simpsons house. Bart and Lisa have reconnected with their kids, Maggie's officially a mom, Homer is somehow still sober, and Marge is still forcing everyone to Christmas photos. Only this time, the pets are running the cameras. Well, that's all for today, but if you're still craving cartoon history, feel free to check out this other video. Thanks for watching.